Hi, I'm Dave, owner of Future Past Vintage Collectibles, here with my daughter Rachel.
Hello.
As we always are every week to bring you comic content that's probably a little different than what you watch on other channels. So, right away, it's been a year since we've been doing this, and we've been finding our way. I mean, we started off as an unboxing channel, and boy, do I feel different about that today.
Oh yeah.
In
73 videos later.
Yeah,
And
73
here we are.
videos. I want to show you guys real quick, if you don't mind putting it up, Rachel. Here's data. Just because you guys probably wonder, like, what does a channel like this one do? So I'm going to start right away. So starting with views. In the past month, we had 25.5K, which in comparison, Rachel?
It's about 9.6 thousand more than we typically get.
Yeah, and then our watch time hours last month, we had 4.9K, almost 5,000 watch hours.
Which is about 1,600 more than we usually get also, which is exciting.
Yep. And last month in subscribers, we edged right up on 400. We had 396.
Yep, and then this was 126 more than usual. So we got some new eyes on our channel. Hello, if you're new.
And this past month, we made $153 in ad revenue from YouTube.
Wahoo!
Which is the second month in a row that we actually made the minimum, which is $100.
Yeah.
By the way, this is not what we're going to retire on, just so you know. But it's nice. It's nice to get something back. We give more than that away in a month.
Yeah,
So
especially
it's
on
like-
YouTube videos, just in general.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get the money back, but it's good to build that community, and we enjoy doing it.
It's
So
also good to have visibility. This is what it looks like to have, a smaller YouTube channel.
And what's interesting, I want to show real quick our Instagram page, and we're floating right at close to 1,700 followers on Instagram, and it's amazing to me because we've only really put a lot of focus on Instagram in the last 4 months, how much faster it's growing when it's supposed to be a much harder platform to grow.
Yeah, Instagram's a different world.
I have to question the algorithm that we keep hitting in YouTube.
Yeah.
Because I'm here to tell you, I know people that have been on Instagram for years and haven't seen growth as fast as we're growing. At least 100 a week, which is a lot for Instagram. But it's been fantastic. And the reason that's important to us is because we do our claim sales on Instagram. And I think this is going to be our 8th one. Ninth. Wow.
Yeah. It's like night and day to what
So much work.
kind of books we show now versus then.
Yeah.
It's a whirlwind. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we really, that's our sweet sauce. And we've definitely been able to get a lot of incredibly high-grade books out there, and I think people are kind of surprised when they see near mint mints. I think they're more surprised when they get them at home and they're actually near mint mints. Because I'm not talking about a book that came out last year. I'm talking about books from the early 70s. So that's our specialty, is really, really high-grade books. It's not all we sell. We do sell other stuff.
We do sell a lot of smorgasbord.
But I've been putting attention on this for decades. And a lot of the books that we're selling, I actually had in my PC. The PCs that I'm selling out of are people that had the same kind of affinity towards high grade. So that's what we do.
But yeah, check us out over there if you want. I'll link it down below. And you can give us a follow. Every Monday from 5 to 7 p.m. is when we do the claim sales. If you want to come say hi.
In the time that we've been shooting these videos, I've done a lot of comic book show and tells, which is meeting with prominent collectors. And why I say prominent, they've been at it for decades. And they're very focused usually on one thing or another. So in the course of doing that, I saw some incredible books. Now, I've been around this hobby my entire life. And in my life, I have seen some incredible books. But being shown these books at this stage in my life, books I haven't collected or books I'm just not as familiar with as others, has really kind of opened my eyes and opened my nose to wanting to get those books. And it's just been fascinating how scarce these books are. That and I'm going to talk about it a little bit. You can't even find a copy in very good, and some of these books are whopping in at 30 graded copies. And anyway, I'm going to talk about it. And I have 10, and Rachel has 5. Her top 5. I have my top 10, and we're going to start with number 10.
And these are just of the show and tell videos. We basically went through all of them separately and picked out our favorites out of the ones that they showed. These aren't our favorite books of all time, but they're our favorites of these people that these people showed us.
Yeah, where we are today and the way we look at these books, this is how we feel. You talk to us in 6 months, it could change. One of the things I can tell you is that this has nothing to do with value. The number one book for me is not the most valuable, could be one of the least valuable books.
My number one book is very valuable, so it's a different...
Yeah. That
Very
wasn't
different.
That wasn't the criteria that Rachel and I used. We
No.
literally used what books did you enjoy seeing the most, and it's going to be interesting to talk about these. So without further ado, here's number 10.
Next book, 1965. This is an interesting book. Great colors, great composition. I mean, sweet color palette on this.
I've never seen this till today. I have to own this book. Well, you know what throws me out? That green is kind of jarring.
I know.
It doesn't match. It doesn't match.
Exactly.
Is it black and white, or is it?
I'm telling you, the palette
Is it
on
a
that
gray
is
tone?
terrific.
I don't.
It's terrific.
I've never seen a cover like that.
Now, here's the thing about this book.
But the art is great.
And I'll tell you why it's great.
Yeah. Who is that?
John Romita.
Okay. Yeah.
Senior.
So I hope you like that book. John Romita cover that just looks dazzling in high grade. And so I've been looking for this book. Haven't seen a copy. Haven't seen one copy. I want it. And I'm going to talk about some other ones. This book does not come up. And if this is the kind of book you want, your life's going to be full of frustrating that it wasn't theirs. Did you go to the show? Yeah. Did you find that book? It wasn't there. Let's go directly into number 9.
So Army at War, this is Army at War 112. This is sort of like one of those things where you look at it and you're like, wait, is that even what it appears to be? It's super iconic, and it's got what all war comics know as the Brady Bunch cover. And the Brady Bunch cover is this sort of beloved cover that shows the roster of all the guys in Easy Company, with Sergeant Rock right in the center, where Alice, the live-in maid that cleaned up the house. This is Sergeant Rock in the center, and it's got the guys of Easy Company all around.
So this Brady Bunch cover is something I liked the very first time I saw it. Is something I always like, and it's a book that I really would like to own personally in high grade.
It's pretty cool.
It is cool.
I'm not a huge war person.
No.
But like that video was, editing it, I learned a lot, and it was pretty cool.
Let's go right into my number 8. Amazing Mysteries number 32. I don't have to say a lot. I'll let Richard talk about it. This is a horror cover I'm pretty familiar with. And I think there was a copy of this in the Promise collection as well. And
that was real high grade. That went for a lot.
Right.
Yeah,
and people were talking about that.
Lot.
And I remember listening to some people talk about this particular book.
Well, that's kind of a companion piece to Marvel Tales 93. I mean, this was, if I remember correctly, the continuation from... It might have been the continuation from Human Torch. But I don't. It's one of the other Marvel titles that they renumbered with 32, and I don't remember if it was Torch or Subby or what it was. But it's the first horror book. I think it might be the first horror book that Marvel did.
It even says that on the label. It says first Marvel horror comic.
So
obviously, this book is on a lot of people's lists, and it's known as the first horror comic book of that era. I love the cover. I like the theme. I like what's going on here, and I would not be surprised if I never owned this book. This is 7.5.
Yeah.
I mean, Richard has some grades that just don't even seem real.
What an incredible collection that man has. It's insane.
Yeah. Richard, Bedrock Comics in Texas, Houston, Texas, guys. If you don't know about him, look him up.
And we did 3 interviews with him. We as in my dad, and they're all incredible.
Yeah. So let's go right into number 7. I grabbed this for a reason, other than it's an incredible book. Might as well show it. And that's because I'll let Richard talk about the original art to this book. But obviously, this is Haunt of Fear 18. It came out in 1953. This is the Gaines file copy. And what a cover.
I got I lucked into meeting somebody who owned the original art to that, and ended up selling it to me. I'd known him, but I didn't know that he owned that cover. And I was talking with him at OFCON in Oklahoma City, and I just said, "Man, that's if you ever think about parting with it, just keep me in mind, please." And sure enough, a few years after that, he called me up, and we did a deal, and I bought the cover, and the cover is amazing. The artwork on the comic is amazing, but seeing the cover, one of the things that's interesting is this character, so it's the first Old Witch, but there's all this stuff going on with like this skin of this face, and there's these ghouls climbing out through the eye holes, and these little ghouls that are made of hands or made of it's just, there's some crazy experimentation going on with the characters on this cover. Well, there's this skull with its eyes rolled back here. Well, on the original art, eyes here have pupils in them. They were colored out for the published deal. But that means that this guy is still alive and these zombies are climbing out of his mouth. It makes the cover even more gruesome.
So any Ingalls cover has my attention. Hearing Richard describe this cover compared to the original art he owns of this cover was next level. From a horror perspective, and that's what I do, yeah, I got to see the original cover art, which was different than the printed art. It was actually worse. And I heard EC struggled with that a lot. They always had to tamp down those covers coming out of EC. It was a sick cover to see, book to hold, piece of art to look at. Let's talk about number 6. Here we go.
The next issue, it's my second favorite issue of the run, 214. This is also a lot of people's favorite issue of the run because of the bright red cover. The composition is again excellent. I mean, I love this issue almost as much as I like 213. And this was graded 9.2. Managed to get this copy quite a few years ago before it skyrocketed in price. And very happy with this book. There's 3 9.2s on the census right now. I'm glad to have one of them.
It's almost a trope now, you know,
Yeah.
to have someone riding on a spaceship or an airplane. God, that is sick.
All right, so you're probably wondering, that's number 6. You must have like an action number. No. As we go up, you're probably going to start getting surprised. But yeah, this is one of my favorite covers. I just, every time I see this cover, it brings me a joy that is unique to it. So I'd love to own a copy of this book. But we'll see what happens. It's not getting any cheaper, and it's not getting easier to find.
Yeah.
If you don't know about
Ken's
that book,
books are like so nice. It's insane.
Ken is as discerning, if not more discerning than I am. I would say more discerning. Some of the things that would stop him from buying a comic book are, to me, incredible and educational. So I like to hear the way he looks at it because as you look at his books, he's gone out of his way to make sure the staples are right, that it was well centered, that the page quality goes with it. All of these things. There's no simple exercise there. Now we're getting into where we both have a book. So now Rachel, she had seen comic books her whole life, and you know, I sold comic books in the 90s and early 2000s, and Rachel saw that. Had a bunch of comic books all over the house. She saw that, but she never collected comic books, and that wasn't her bag, right? Watching the Rugrats, playing video games. She had other pop culture going on, but
That's
not
true.
that. Ever since we've been doing this together, and I asked her to come join me as I built this company and work with me, she's been getting exposed to comic books. I don't even think you initially thought that you would like them.
I mean, I knew that I would like art, but
Yeah.
I never thought I would have a collection of books, which
Yeah.
now I kind of do.
You're starting to build a little collection. And also, you were exposed. So, like, as we did these videos, Rachel's looking at this stuff, and this makes me really happy. And all of a sudden, she go, "That is cool." And
I edited all of those
Yeah.
show and tell videos, so I had to do a lot of research on all of these artists that I'd never heard of before, and I learned a lot.
And it takes hours. So she's watching those videos, I mean, intensely. Every second she could tell you what's going on. So as time went on and we kept doing these videos, she would let me know if she really liked it, if she didn't care. Like, she does not care about Western comic books at all.
I don't care about army comics usually.
Yeah, there was a couple you liked.
Yeah, but it's not my fave.
No. And I love Army comic books. Anyway.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
They're just not for me.
But I think that you landed on horror, didn't you?
Yeah, which I don't think's a surprise.
But do you watch horror films?
Yeah.
What's the scariest movie you've ever seen?
Hereditary.
Oh, okay.
Movies get out of me. I still have nightmares about it.
Probably the scariest movie I ever saw was Night of the Living Dead because I was so young. And that movie still haunts my dreams. There are some scenes in that movie that were so gloomy and hopeless. It was just, you would think that you could escape from these slow zombies. So being a young kid and watching that film blew my mind. After that, though, the scariest movie I ever saw was Tales of the Crypt. My mother took me to see that, which I still question. I was probably 8. Literally had nightmares, and that movie changed my comic book life. All I wanted to read was horror. or, non-hero stuff. Let's talk about Rachel's number 5.
So the thing that's funny about my number 5 is it was your number 8, Amazing Mysteries 32.
Yeah. And what do you like about that book?
Well, I forgot it was the first horror comic, so that definitely is a reason why, but I just forgot that was part of it.
Yeah.
But looking through all the comics, I just really liked the cover.
The art.
I'm a cover person.
Is it the art you like, or is it the theme and the art?
Both. So yeah, that was my number 5.
So my number 5 is right here.
There is one book left, and this was supposed to be the last issue that he did for Famous Funnies. Publisher thought it was too graphic, so they didn't use it. But Frazetta had done some work for EC. Bill Gaines liked it and wanted to use it as the final issue of Weird Science Fantasy. So instead of Famous Funnies 217, it became Weird Science Fantasy 29. By a lot of people's standards, is considered the best comic book cover ever drawn. I think it's right up there in the top 10. I mean, I really love this cover, and again, it has those unusual color scheme to it. It's not my favorite cover of all time, but I really love this cover. I mean, if you like Frazetta, you have to own a copy of this book.
Yeah, so you're probably asking, number 5, that might be the best cover I've ever seen. I'm not saying it's not. The way I numbered these, though, really is if I was going to buy a book that I thought I could reasonably afford, would it be this one? And I could probably afford a 1.5 or a 2.0, where, as you see, as I get to the top of the list, they're out there and I can get them. If one came up, I could actually get it. So I don't see me owning a copy of this, but my brother does have one I can visit. And it's in 9.6. So it's I can look at that and weep, and it makes me just feel like I can throw away my whole collection looking at that book. Anyway, let's talk about number 4. Let's do your number 4 first.
Okay, here it is.
Blue Bolt 115. So, I saw this 9.4 pop up. And I said, well, we definitely have to show this. When I came back to collecting a few years ago, I wasn't familiar with any of these old horror titles because I don't remember them being that popular. And they were with you because you really focused on gold.
I remember the first time I saw a copy of that book. When I worked at Camelot, we had a warehouse upstairs with a bunch of books that we had bought from an overstock place in the Chicago area. There were all these unsorted books right around the time that the Jason Disbrow reprints and some of that stuff started coming out from these old Star comics. And I was going through some boxes, and there were runs of Blue Bolt Weirds and Ghostly Weirds and all kinds of stuff in there. And seeing that cover for the first time, it was like, wow, this thing is awesome.
Okay. Number 1, it's a really cool cover. It's got a skeleton on it. And it's L.B. Cole, who is probably my favorite comic artist. Yeah. Which I learned from these videos that I edited.
Yeah, she really liked L.B. Cole. She liked the color use. She liked all the different kind of genre stuff he was doing. There's others I might like as much as him. So, yeah, I'm an L.B. Cole fan. Huge.
That's really cool.
It's a good choice.
1952.
Yep.
It was a long time ago. Yeah.
Here's my number 4.
EC had kids on the covers of comics.
Definitely has a lot of Adams, or Adams definitely drew a number of covers.
Yeah, if you look at any of the Bronze Age horror Neil Adams covers from House of Mystery and House of Secrets, there was always a bunch of kids in the covers, and EC was doing that too. And this is one of the very best. Some people call this the Mars Attacks cover, and
that's a terrific cover. Well, I say Weird Science 9 is my favorite, but then I look at that and it's like that could be my favorite too.
I think the idea, if I'm guessing right, is that if I was a kid and I saw that comic on the stands, I could identify, look at these little kids and these aliens, because this was their audience.
Well, it's funny because I've looked at this and other stories a lot, and there's a conversation happening, and they don't look as scared as they should be. You know what I'm saying? And if I was a kid and I saw this, I would absolutely have to buy this comic book. This is by far one of my favorite covers, and of all aliens, check that dude out. I mean, his face is melting, and he's not alone, because look at all the other spaceships coming, so...
They also put a small dog on the cover, which Adams did as well. There were a number of pets on the covers of his.
Yeah, I gotta believe that.
Even the dog doesn't look as scared as he should be.
So just so you know, I do have a copy of that book. I have a 6.5. Obviously, I'd like to upgrade this. Not that this isn't a nice copy, because really, it's a fantastic 6.5. Anyway, one of the best covers of all time, in my personal opinion. It really links into my nostalgia of robots, children, spaceships. I just, as a kid, I love this stuff. So this cover, Wallywood art, yeah, this holds a special place in my heart.
Here's my number 3.
Yeah.
Probably the most difficult issue to get in grade. I like this cover more than almost any other comic book cover, period. Maybe it's my favorite cover. It's in my top 2 or 3 for sure.
And it's a phenomenal book. I mean, this book is just in beautiful shape.
Yeah, this one, like I said, is really hard to get. I think there's one 9.0 copy graded of this, and then it drops to an 8.5. An 8.0 of this sold recently for $20,000, which shows how desirable these books are, and in particular this issue. Extremely difficult, I'd say above 7.5. It's just extraordinarily hard to find.
It's one of my favorite covers of all time as well.
I think it's great.
And we're back.
Okay, so out of all the Frank Frazetta covers that I saw, this is my favorite because there's so many people that have ripped it.
I think if you told anyone on Earth that was your favorite comic cover, no one would question it.
It's so cool. It's so scary. It's spooky space.
It's so futuristic. It uses such intricate art. It's one of my favorite covers of all time, too. It's hard to put these in numerical order. I mean, I don't want to say that, like, my number 10 is not someone's grail. It's probably a bunch of people's grails, you know?
Well, and it's like we were just going through the books that, other people that we know own. So obviously it's hard to
that I've
categorize.
held and talked about and asked them about, and it kind of, how exposure really opens up your collecting mind, and all of a sudden you see something that you weren't even thinking about or looking at, and all of a sudden you didn't know about it. You got to have it right now. Anyway, here is my number 3.
Now we're getting into more of what DC was all about.
See, this is where I start to really enjoy what they were doing in terms of covers.
Girls Love. Now that is...
This is dope. I mean, this is the kind of stuff I would buy in this grade and higher.
It is dope.
I don't know why I missed this my first time collecting. I would have never seen it.
You never would have seen it.
I wasn't familiar. So when I came back, I heard that like Romance had moved up.
Yeah, it was moved
up the ladder.
It's creeping up.
Moved up the ladder, and people were actually starting to go after particular artists in particular eras. Mm-hmm. I started to see some covers like this, not this one. And every time I saw one, I'm like, I get why someone would want that. I want that. I want that in 9.2 or 9.4.
Yeah,
and I started off like thinking, I'm going to get a 9.6 of that. And my brother's like, no, you're not. You're not going to see a 9.6 of that book.
Not of that.
They don't exist, and if they do, you might see one in 5 years, a 9.2 or 9.4. So
yeah, books like that, a technical grade of 8.0 or 8.5 is pretty good. This is a classic DC. You've got no dialogue. There's no word balloons.
I like DC romance stuff.
You'd think
a lot.
It's like, well, is that the picture you want? You're going to try and get people to buy a book about some kind of heartache, but you know what? Heartache sold, and still does.
I don't even know what to say about this book. This is about cover art, the 60s. It's about the theme of it. I would love a 9.2 or 9.4 copy of this book. Haven't seen one for sale since I had this conversation a year ago. So,
which is crazy.
That's why it made it so high on my list, because I'm always looking for it, and it's like ridiculous. You can't just spend your time looking for it. So I'm kind of waiting for it to pop up. It hasn't.
It probably won't. Unfortunately.
Well, I'm going to keep looking. But I just, holding this and looking at it and seeing the colors on it, I just think it's an incredible piece of pop culture art, an era I grew up, and I would like to own that comic book. Yeah. Just saying.
All right, here's my number 2.
This is a classic Neil Adams cover. I like Neil Adams' artwork a lot. This cover's iconic. Got this one years ago from a collection called the Monterey Collection. A lot of original owner stuff in that collection.
I'm looking at the way the staples are in it, and it almost makes me mad at the book. It's so it's like so perfect. It's like anyone who's ever had a copy of it has saved this book. And you see like such low grade copies of this book out there. You really don't want to buy a 9.8 slab because they're so expensive.
Right.
And it just doesn't feel like something you'd want to invest in like that. So you look for raw copies, and this is just beautiful. Most people who have copies that are this grade, you would not see it raw. It's a rare thing to be able to handle a book like this in a Mylar,
Buying it raw, I have no desire to get that graded. It doesn't matter to me if it's 9.6 or 9.8. While it's in my collection, I just prefer it like this.
Yeah, this is the nicest copy I've ever seen.
Talk about it.
I don't even think I need to say anything about it.
You
I
do.
mean,
I'm curious. Are you a Batman fan?
I love Batman. I love the Joker.
She loves Batman.
The reason that this is on my list is because it's probably the highest graded copy I'll ever see.
So it's the book.
It's the book.
You're talking about that actual
Well,
copy.
I know that this is a valuable book.
Yes, it is.
I know that I will never own one. It's an iconic Batman book.
So what's interesting is, when I see a Monterey book, and Monterey is a known collection that came out of Southern California. When the owner passed away, it went into a bunch of collectors' hands and got sold. And they were some of the highest grade examples of Bronze Age books. That particular book is a Jim dandy.
Well, I've seen rags of it, and there's just a different energy. Like at the last convention we were at, I saw like a 2.5.
Yeah.
For like $300 or something. And I was like, no, it wasn't as nice as that one, and nothing probably ever will be.
And some people, they just want to own a copy and they don't care as long as there's a cover there. And
but
I
there
get
is
that.
a difference in the energy.
You're talking about a grade really attracting you. Sometimes like the cover's okay, and all of a sudden you see a 9.4 of it and like, this cover's incredible.
It's cool.
When a book is that high grade, it just plays different.
Yeah.
So here's my number 2.
This is Star Spangled War Stories number 90, and that is the first dinosaur issue. I have to admit, I'm going to betray a little bit of myself here. I didn't initially appreciate that run when I first started collecting war comics. And it's not that I didn't like dinosaurs. It's just I didn't really like the genre kind of like crossing over with war comics. And then I started to read them when I was an adult, and I was like, these are actually pretty good. So that's what that is. That's the first dinosaur war book. And it started actually a fairly long run of about 45 or so issues that went from number 90 up to 137.
And me and my brother have always appreciated those. I remember being young and just liking the fact that it's war and dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Great covers.
Right.
All right.
Dinosaur.
You like dinosaurs.
I do.
Yeah. And I think that has seeing them on comic books kind of made you like them a little more?
I mean, yeah, they're cool.
Yeah.
None of my top 5 have dinosaurs in them, but it's not because I don't like them.
Yeah, so I will own a copy of this book one day. I'd like to own something higher than a 3.5. Thanks again, Mick, for showing me this sick comic book.
It's all your fault.
I have a couple of these, nowhere near this early, but Star Spangled War Stories, I love that series, and I know that you're not much into that war comics. That particular series I am. So,
I mean, it's cool. I don't mind looking at it.
So let's talk about your number 1. Rachel will go first. This is the number 1 comic book in the last year of us looking at all these books. As Rachel looks back, this made number 1 for her, and here we go.
Here it is.
So this one, I think it's arguably one of the most famous EC comics.
Yeah, definitely.
There's other comics to talk about. If you're talking about the best or the most famous EC, Mad Number 1 and First Tales from the Crypt and all that. But this might arguably be the most popular or most well-known cover of all the EC books. And as we've talked about in other episodes, Ken and I both like EC sci-fi a lot, and we both collect it. And even though I don't collect EC horror, I could never probably let go of this book because it's just so awesome.
Rachel picked the creme de la creme of horror books as her number 1, leaving a lot to the imagination on what's going on. Black blood on the axe. Yeah.
The thing I liked most about learning about this book is the trial that happened because of the...
So The Seduction of the Innocent was a book that led to a congressional trial, and they were able to put a comic code out that didn't allow for a lot of the things happening in EC. Basically shut EC down. They turned into Mad Magazine. Yeah. And other things that they did.
But that was really interesting, and also the cover is just so gross and horrifying. So...
And simple.
Love it.
It could be so much worse. I think her eyes in it just kind of sew it up.
It's so scary.
Yeah,
1954.
fantastic.
Who would have known?
Fantastic choice.
Yes.
I give you kudos for that.
Thank you. All right, what's your number 1?
This earth-shattering comic book that has changed comic history.
You might be shocked. We'll see.
Check this out.
Young Romance 150. This book is kind of considered a classic cover by Silver Age romance collectors. I see them around occasionally. Usually they're like low grade. It's just iconic with the reflection in the sunglasses, the color scheme on it and everything.
Kind of interesting is so after pre-code romance didn't really have the covers that grabbed you as much after the code came out, but then DC in the late 60s started really having some fantastic covers on their romance books. Young Romance was a really long-lived title. That started off as probably an early 50s title and went into the 70s, so it really ran for a long time.
Well, I'm not familiar with this cover, and it's incredible.
And we're back. I cannot find a copy of this, and that's why it's number one. So yeah, I'm looking. It's going to, I think a book like this in 9.4 or 9.6 would be many thousands of dollars. I think people probably don't understand how sought these types of books are, and it's the art. It's the era, the time period, the art, everything about this screams something I want to hang on my wall. Although I wouldn't if I owned this book. I love this piece of art. I even, down to her nails not being even. And it's just so well conceived, so well executed, and it's been cover swiped over and over. This was my number one book. Yeah, I'm looking for it. I'm on the hook.
Have one. Let us know.
in higher than 2.5.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
We have some honorable mentions also.
Yeah, do yours first.
My first honorable mention is Shocking Mystery Cases number 50, another L.B. Cole book. It's a like Frankenstein L.B. Cole cover.
That is a wicked cover.
It's really cool.
I love that cover.
I just couldn't add all. If I could have added all the L.B. Cole books, I probably would have. My other honorable mention is Ellery Queen number 1. It's just really cool.
Very cool book. Love that book.
Yeah.
My honorable mentions is Weird Horror Sevens, Ken's book. Ken and I were both looking at that book from the same person. He bought it first,
He got to it first.
And it was not cheap. I would have spent the money on that, and it would have been a good buy, and not to resell it anytime soon, but just put it away, because you don't see them in high grade. So Ken might have the nicest copy out there, period. It was an honor to get to see this book raw. I love this art. And now we're talking about New York City 50s street art. And come on, man, I love it. Anyway.
It's really cool.
Honorable mention.
There it is. That's our list.
That's everything that we do.
Our look back on the last year of the things that we did.
What will we be saying this time next year?
Oh, how things have changed.
They've changed. Yes, they have. So do we have anything in closing?
We talked about Comic Shell a while ago. I just want to let you guys know that we have a discount code down below if you want to use it to get 10% off if you wanted to buy a Comic Shell. It's Futurepast at checkout. I have a link in the description box. But this is what it looks like. It holds 2 slabs or up to 10 raw books. They gave this one to us for free. What is it? And we gave one away. They do not come with these fantastic 4 keys. Although I wish we could offer that to you, but that's not a thing. But that information's down below if you're interested in getting 10% off. Woohoo! All right, well, that's it for today.
Yep. Join us on our claim sale. See something that's probably like nothing else you've been watching.
That's so true.
Yeah, a little different.
2 hours of fun.
There'll be 5 of us now working that, and we're going to continue to build our team.
Yep.
Just to be able to expedite the books that we're selling. We sold out 3 weeks in a row. So.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And our link's down below if you want to follow us over there. 5 to 7 p.m. PST every Monday. And also follow us over on eBay because we post everything we didn't sell on the claim sale on eBay, and we do deals over there too.
And make sure to go back and check those videos out. If you haven't seen them, at first blush, you might think that this is the typical stuff. There's nothing typical in these. These are books you just do not see, and a lot of channels don't talk about. So
I will link our playlist in the description below of all the vintage comic show and tells that we've done.
Yeah.
That way you guys can click on it and see.
So have a great day, and thanks for watching.
Goodbye.
Bye now.